Good morning, everybody. It's your boy D Max. So let's talk. What if Mary, the mother of Yeshua, or as you know him, commonly known as Jesus, what if she let her fear cause her to discourage him from going on his mission and what he was supposed to do? Where would we be? This question is for the believers. If you're not a believer, then disregard this because this is not pertaining to you. So I ask again, if Mary allowed her fear of what would happen to her son dictate her actions and cause her to discourage him from going on his ministry, then where would we be as a entire world? And so I bring about this point because Mary, when she was during conception, during the Immaculate Conception, she had the understanding that her child was going to be a revolutionary and that he was going to bring about change in the world. And she also understood that there was going to be resistance against that. And you see, she had to run down to Bethlehem, her and Joseph. She knew the danger and she knew how much death and carnage was going to come behind the birth of her child and his assignment. But she understood and she stood back and she allowed God's work to take place because she saw the bigger picture. It was bigger than her fears. It was always bigger than her fears. Remember, whenever he got left behind at the temple when he was debating with the scholars, and she came up in her fear and she said, "Why would you do this to us?" And he said to her, "Do you know that I am about my father's business?" And he straightened her, not like straightened her, but he corrected her mindset because he was giving her a reminder of what he was there for. He was not there to please her. He was not there to appease her. He was there because he had a mission from his father that was much bigger than her and her emotions. And so there were a few times where Jesus had to remind her of what his purpose for being on this earth was. And so she got that understanding. And even though she had that understanding, when he was on his way to Golgotha carrying the cross and they were weeping for him, what did he say to them? Don't weep for me, weep for Israel, because Israel is going to go through it after this. And so he was preparing them for the carnage and all of the bad things that were going to come after his death. But he also made them understand that it was much bigger than him. And if his death didn't take place, then the world would be totally doomed. And so, even though they struggled with it, they understood that and they allowed it to take place. Now, you had one who came and tried to he cut off the ear of one of the guards, and Jesus healed it. He was like, "No, remember, you can't stop this. Don't allow your emotions to dictate what is taking place right now. Don't allow it to dictate your actions." This is what Jesus was saying to them the whole time. And so I want to focus on the sacrifice of Mary because everybody talks about how he gave his only begotten son that whosoever believe on him shall have eternal life. But we don't talk about the sacrifice that Mary gave because remember, it was her son too. And so she had to stand by and watch everything that was going to take place too. And as a mother who is the ultimate primary nurturer of their children, she came from your womb. The connection of a mother and a child cannot be contested by anybody but God. And so for her to be a mother and to understand the mandate that was on his life, and she had to choke back her feelings and her emotions to allow the bigger picture to play out. Now I want to address the mothers of today, and specifically the Black mothers, because I also give credit to Afeni Shakur, because she understood that her son was going to be a revolutionary. She understood that her son was going to have opposition and could potentially lose his life for the message that he was pushing. And even though she knew all of these things, because remember, she was a Black Panther member, she's already seen what had happened to Black Panther members when they were dispersed back in the day. Her herself was a fugitive from the government for a long time because of the persecution and the oppression that was placed on them by the FBI and the other alphabet groups. So Afeni Shakur was in that same vein. Now, I'm not comparing Tupac to Jesus. Don't get it twisted. I'm just talking about the mothers and their understanding of what their child's purpose was. And so they understood and they put their emotions in check for the bigger picture. And when Tupac died, I know his mother was hurt, but she understood the message and she understood the purpose for the message. So I'm talking to Black mothers right now who are out here beating the revolutionary out of your child because of your fears. Now, this is a part of the buck breaking that they did back in the beginning of slavery in order to keep some control over the slaves. Because what the slave master understood was that the Black woman can control the household. The Black woman, now mind you, the man was out in the field all day. The women were too, but they were also in the household with the children and rearing the children. And so the woman had the most influence over the child in the Black household during slavery. And what they would do, like I said before, the buck breaking thing, where you take the strongest slave you got, the biggest, strongest slave, and you get all your slaves out there, especially the women, make sure they're up front, and you beat him within an inch of his life. And that is going to put the fear in those women that if you or your children do anything, I'm stronger than the strongest of you. And this is what will happen to you. And that seed that was planted in Black mothers was the way that the slave master was able to sleep at night, because that Black woman saw that action and what happened, and she would do anything to discourage her male child, her female child, her husband, or whoever from going against the masters. Okay. And this is a tool that they've used ever since that came into play throughout history to discourage revolutionaries. There's been so many revolutionaries that have been discouraged by their mothers for the fear of them dying. I remember Dr. Sabi saying that when he started to work his herbs and things like that, and he started to see results that the government wasn't seeing with these major diseases and things. His mother told him, they're gonna get you, they are gonna get you, they're gonna kill you. Now maybe she said that as a warning or as a cautionary tale, but in the same instance, that is discouragement. She tried to discourage what she knew was going to happen to him because of what he stumbled upon and the discovery that he made through his herbs. And she warned him, she said, they're going to get you. But see, this is the thing. If she knew and understood how the gravity of what his mandate was, then would she have been more supportive, or would she have discouraged them even more? This is what our Black mothers have to understand nowadays. We're in a time where our young men are lost. They are so lost. And the few that we do have that are willing to stand up and fight for a purpose and fight for a cause are being beaten and being discouraged and being turned on by their mothers because of their mother's fear of what these government officials are going to do to their children, which they have a right to. I cannot fault a mother for fearing for the life of her child. Anyone fears for the life of their children. I'm not saying that that's wrong, but what I'm saying is that some of these children, you have to understand that God has placed something in them to where they are going to have this righteous indignation and they are going to speak out against the injustices that are going on in this world. There are people who have been mandated with that purpose. And when you, as a parent, mother, or father, you recognize that in your children, what are you going to do? Are you going to nurture it? Are you going to give them the guidance and the understanding that they need going out there to give this message? Or are you going to discourage them because of your fears of a police officer shooting them down in the streets? What are you going to do? You're at that Mary moment. You have to decide, am I going to let my child hang on the cross for these people? Or am I going to do something about it and try to talk my child out of going and sacrificing himself for these people? What are you going to do, mothers? This is a very important question moving forward because things are not going to get better. They're going to get worse. The protests are going to get more deadly. The protests are going to get more aggressive, and they're going to find new ways to label us as terrorists so they could justify the violence that they want to put upon us during these protests. So I'm asking you, Black mothers, what are you going to do in those moments? Are you going to discourage your son from going out there and speaking out and being with the people? Are you going to discourage him from doing what you celebrate, the Martins and the Malcolms and the Farrakhan's and all of these people that you uplift and hold up so high in regard? Are you going to discourage your child from being that because you fear for his life? So it's okay for them to go out there and do that stuff on our behalf, but my child can't do that. No, 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 no. My child is more important than the betterment of the Black people. Is that the attitude that you're going to carry? And it's not just the mother, because there are fathers that do it too. But this is more of a mother thing because the government has always used the Black mother to deter revolutionism or revolute, however the word goes. I make up my own words like Don King. So y'all just go with it. Um, but is that the case? Are they going to continue to be able to use our Black mothers to discourage and beat the revolutionary out of the children? Y'all see the thumbnail, and we remember the story. This young man was Black out there, and he was protesting. Was he in the right or was he in the wrong? We don't know, because the way that they played the narrative and the way that they showed that clip, all they showed was his mother running up on him and beating him, and the people were split. Some people said, good for her, get him out of there, he don't need to be there. But when Black people are standing up for their rights, what are we trying to teach our children, our young teenagers who are going to be the future? Are we going to teach them to put their heads in a hole and duck and hide and don't say anything and stay quiet? Or are we going to teach them to speak up for what they want? Are we going to teach them to speak up for what is right? All of the characteristics and all of the morals and values that we preach, whenever it comes down to our kids to exercise them, if there's some danger attached to it, we will totally contradict ourselves as a parent. And it needs to stop right now. There's no contradiction when it comes to what's right and what's wrong. We have to understand what our child is, what their purpose is, and we have to guide them and, you know, just lead them and guide them in the understanding of what they are trying to accomplish and trying to do. If any of my children come to me and say that they're angry about this and the people are going to come together and protest about it, Am I going to say don't go protest? No, I'm going to say protest, but be smart about the way that you protest. And I'm going to give them certain guidelines and things to do to safeguard themselves as much as possible. And I'm also going to tell them, understand that your life is in jeopardy anytime you speak out for a right pertaining to us as a people. And so they go into it with that understanding. I've equipped them with everything necessary to endure what they would have to in that event for a bigger picture because I understand what's at stake. And so we as parents, and this is going once again to our mothers, and we love y'all to death, but y'all can't allow y'all fears to continue to discourage and deter revolutionaries. We have some very powerful revolutionaries that are being muzzled by their mother's fear. And they know when I say they, I'm referring to our government and these white nationalist groups, the ones who put this whole system into play. They understand that and they're going to perpetuate it every time they get. That's why the media pushes so much fear. Well, who do you think all of this fear is for? It's not for us men. Us men, a lot of times, we don't care about a lot of that stuff. It's the women that they touch, the women that they plant that seed of fear into every time they come on and they say, well, this is going to kill somebody and this could do that. The women are the one that they plant those seeds of fear in. And those women will express their fears to us as the man. And us as the man, we want to fix things and we don't want our woman to fear because that is our nature, is to be a protector. And in order to protect her and to put her fears at bay, we'll chill out on what we were about to do, or we'll rethink some things we're about to do. Sometimes it's good, most of the times it's not. And so we just have to have some we have to have some discernment when it comes to that situation. We have to discern when to listen to wise counsel and when we're listening to someone speaking out of fear. We have to be able to do that because this is where a lot of our confusion is coming in, and we're not going to get anything accomplished because we have this inner strife before we even begin to face our true opponent. We have opponents to beat before we actually get to the truth. It's like a video game whenever you have to beat all of these lowly minions in order to get to the big boss. And one of those minions that we are constantly fighting before we even get to the real fight is Black Mother's fear. So we just have to put that in check. Black mothers, understand your children and understand what their purpose is so that you won't be a hindrance to what God is trying to do in these last days and ages. This is your boy D Mac, man. I'm going to leave on that note. You know what I say, sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.